We all know that affairs often break up families. Divorces happen and custody battles happen. There's hurt feelings, betrayal, and anger. There's lies and manipulation, and all sorts of other tactics that are used in efforts to try and keep unsuspecting spouses in the dark. Today's case shows the heartbreaking and horrible side of affairs and how they can easily affect everyone when the truth comes to light. Today's case is a case from back in 2011 that many of you guys have asked for, and I want you to buckle up because it is a bit of a wild one. Hey guys, I'm Elise. This is 10 to Life. Let's dive in. Alright, so I just got out of the shower. I'm ready for bed. I want to be asleep in like 30 minutes, so I'm about to go downstairs and make my Beam Dream Tea. I drink this tea every single night. It has magnesium in it, it has L-theanine in it, it has CBD in it, but don't worry, no THC. It goes through a triple lab check, and it is the best. I take about 30 minutes before I want to be asleep, and it helps me stay asleep and just feel so well rested when I wake up. I don't feel groggy, I don't feel foggy. It is the best. And it comes in so many amazing flavors. Sea salt caramel, which I love, it tastes like hot chocolate. It comes in mint chip, pumpkin spice now, which is perfect because we're officially going into fall now that Labor Day's done. Chocolate raspberry, peppermint, I mean, all the things, all the flavors. It is so good. But try it for yourself and subscribe and save and get 20% off plus a free frother. And when you use my code 10 to life, you will also get an additional 20% off. That is up to 40% off. Plus, if you do subscribe, which I highly recommend doing, you can cancel it, pause it, skip it, anytime, any month, and there is no risk, there's no penalty, nothing like that. So I will leave the link in my description. You can also use the QR code. Go try it. Tell me how much you love it. It changes the game for me. I'm gonna go drink it so that I can go to sleep. Emmett Corrigan was a 30-year-old husband and father. He was born on August 30th, 1980, to his parents Radine Blackwell and Mike Corrigan. He attended Centennial High School in the Boise, Idaho area and played football at Ricks College for one semester before being called to serve a 2-year LDS mission in Brazil from the year 2000 to 2002. He met his wife Ashlee in 2003 while he was attending Utah State University. Now 41-year-old Ashlee was born in 1982 to John and Terry Harmon. She was one of their 6 children in total, and she loved her family and loved being an older sibling. Unfortunately, though, Ashlee faced a lot of struggles growing up. Her parents separated when she was 9 years old, and this created a lot of heartache and struggle from a very early age. The divorce was hard on her mother financially, and it led to Ashlee having to move house to house with other members in her family in her early childhood. Ashlee says that she always knew when she got older that she would marry and that she would have kids. She always wanted to be a mother, and her main priority was to make sure that her kids experienced a different childhood than her own. She was also very passionate about her religion. So Emmett and Ashlee met and ended up getting married in March of 2004, which was a year after they met. But they were in love, and they had shared goals, shared ideologies, and they were so excited for the life that they were embarking on. In 2005, they welcomed their first 2 kids, twins Boston and Bailey. Not too long later, they welcomed their son Teague, who was their first boy. Emmett graduated from Utah State University with a bachelor's degree in science. In 2008, Emmett, Ashlee, and their children moved to Spokane, Washington, so that Emmett could work on getting his doctorate degree in law at Gonzaga University. Now, the move, combined with being a law student, put a lot of stress on Emmett and Ashlee's marriage, as well as Emmett's relationship with his children. So if anyone has ever been to law school or knows anyone in law school, you know it is basically a full-time job. It's full-time in and of itself, and it requires a lot of focus, a lot of drive, and a ton of dedication. So Emmett was rarely home and would be gone at school until late at night most days. And on top of that, the commute was about an hour-long commute, which over time just adds up to more time that he spent in the car and working, and less time spent with his family. He didn't get to spend much time with his wife or his children, but they knew that this was a time that would soon pass. It was just a finite amount of time until he was done with school. So the years continued, and 2009 was a very big year for the family. They had their fourth child, another little girl named Kalia, and Emmett finally graduated from law school. He immediately got a job at a bankruptcy law firm in Boise, Idaho, so the family packed back up and moved yet again. Emmett was studying for the bar and working at the same time, so his plate was definitely full from everything that he was doing. So Ashlee was still handling almost everything at home, completely on her own. And then Ashlee became pregnant again, with their fifth child this time, another boy who they named Titus. Working at the law firm was okay, and it served as a purpose for a temporary amount of time, but Emmett knew that he wanted to open up his own practice one day. So that's what he did in 2010. He had dreams of becoming a successful defense attorney and knew that by having his own practice, it would pay off. Emmett knew that since he had just started his company, though, and it was starting to get a little too busy to handle on his own, he needed to find reliable people who were also hard workers and who would benefit the company. So he asked a coworker named Kelly if she knew anyone that would fit this description of what he was looking for, and she immediately knew of just the person. Kelly introduced Emmett to 40-year-old Kandi Hall. Kandi was a married mother of two who was looking for paralegal jobs in the area since she had just lost her job at another law firm. Emmett immediately hit it off with Kandi, and he hired her in November of 2010. It seemed as though this was going to be the answer to all of his work struggles, allow him more time at home, have more people in the office, be able to handle the busy workload. It was a win-win situation. Now, Ashlee knew that Emmett had big goals and huge aspirations, and also knew that now he was even more busy with work since he had his own firm to run. But she was worried about how the increasingly long nights at the firm and the little time spent together was starting to impact their family. Ashlee just felt in her gut that there was something more to the noticeable difference in how Emmett was acting. So she began to wonder if there was any possibility of Emmett having some type of affair. I think that's where a lot of women's minds will directly go to and first go to. Is he having an affair? And unfortunately, Ashlee was absolutely right. Emmett was having an affair with none other than the new employee he had hired, Kandi Hall. And the affair started just 2 weeks after Kandi's employment started. The two often used the office as their safe place to continue their sexual relationship. They were both extra secretive with their affair so that both of their spouses wouldn't find out the truth about the affair. But they weren't so secretive around the office. And it is said that other people who worked in the office and even some of their clients knew about this relationship. Although everyone else knew what was happening, Ashlee still wasn't sure. Although there was one moment that was pretty significant. After having gone to another OB appointment on her own because Emmett was too busy to join her, she decided to quickly stop by the office and surprise him. But Emmett was absolutely shocked to see her, and she also noticed Kandi was wearing knee-high boots and a short skirt. This was unsettling, and this led her to immediately question Emmett if he was cheating on her with Kandi. But even though she was questioning him, she told herself that there was no way Emmett would do that to her and their family, not to mention the fact that she believed there was no way Emmett would leave her for a 40-year-old woman. Despite all of this, she was still trying to make things work. She was desperate for their family to stay together as a happy family. She even scheduled marriage counseling, but was stood up by Emmett when it came time for the appointment. But on March 11th, 2011, Ashlee woke up and decided that she was tired of feeling like walking on eggshells and unhappy with a marriage that once had been so full of life and love. So she decided that she would surprise Emmett with a fancy dinner. She went to the grocery store, got all the ingredients, came home, and made his favorite dinner. Now, by this point, they already had had their 5th child, so she was also doing all of this with 5 young children at home, literally a superwoman. Ashlee had decided that they would eat together as they once had so many times, and then hopefully find some time without the kids to discuss what could be done to save their marriage. But Emmett didn't show up at home on time, so Ashlee fed the kids and then got them in bed. As soon as Emmett got home, he told Ashlee that he already ate, and he wasn't interested in the dinner that she had made.
He then blew her off and went into the other room, answering a phone call that Ashlee couldn't hear. Ironically enough, that same night on March 11th, Kandi's husband, Rob Hall, was also confronting her on their marriage and her possible affairs. So once Emmett came back into the room where Ashlee was waiting, distraught and unsure of what to do next, he told her that he was going to Walgreens and that he would be back later. What Ashlee was unaware of was that Kandi was the person on the other end of the line, and they were both meeting at Walgreens to discuss the fact that both of their spouses were beginning to question them. Despite meeting at Walgreens to discuss what was happening, they ended up leaving in Emmett's truck to go have sex in a subdivision. So they must not have been too worried or in a rush to figure things out, and when they arrived back at Walgreens to drop Kandi off at her parked car, Rob, her husband, was waiting for them. The two men got into a very heated argument, and this was when Rob pulled out a gun and shot Emmett twice before turning the gun on himself. At 10:22 p.m., a 911 call came in from a woman saying she heard 3 gunshots and that it looked like 2 males and 1 female were involved. Just 1 minute later, Kandi called 911, and she can be heard in the 911 call yelling, "Robert, Robert, Robert." When police arrived, both Rob and Emmett were lying on the ground. Emmett had been shot once in the chest and once in the head. Rob had what seemed to be a gunshot wound to the head, though we later learned that the bullet had only grazed his head, causing a concussion from the blast. Emmett was unfortunately pronounced dead at the scene, at just 30 years old. He left behind Ashlee and his 5 children, their youngest being only 7 weeks old.
My name is Bailey. My name is Boston.
My name is T.
Hi, my name is Kalia.
My name is Titus.
And my dad died when I was 5. My dad died when I was 5.
When I was 4 years old, and my dad died.
When my dad died, I was almost 2 years old.
And I was only 2 months old when my dad died.
3 shell casings were found at the crime scene, and the murder weapon was found 50 feet from where both Rob and Emmett were laying. Kandi later told police that it was that far away because she threw the gun away from them once she discovered it. When Rob regained consciousness, police asked him why he had been at the Walgreens. He said that his teenage daughter had called him and told him that Kandi's car was at Walgreens. She had called her mom a couple of times and didn't answer, and she didn't actually see Kandi at Walgreens, so she got worried. But Rob was already well aware of what was going on and the likely reason of why she couldn't get a hold of her mom. Kandi told police that she had left work at 6 p.m. that night, and that when she arrived home, Rob was in the garage packing up large boxes. He told her that he had had it with the way that she had been so unresponsive to their marriage the past few months. He was planning on leaving her, and Kandi said that the two of them argued and she left the house around 8:45 p.m. As she was backing out of the driveway, she called Emmett, which was during when Ashlee had said that he went in the other room to take that phone call. She told Emmett that she was on her way to the pharmacy to pick up her prescription, and he told her that he would meet her there. She says the two of them talked about life and then their marital issues. Then they went to go get gas and park the car so that they could have sex. During this time, Kandi received a call from her daughter, who had seen her car and wondered what she was doing. Now, Kandi was obviously a little bit busy, so she failed to answer the call, which was when her daughter called Rob instead. Minutes later, Rob called Kandi to begin to question her, but Emmett answered the call for her, saying, "What's up, Chief?" Kandi said that she could only hear Emmett's side of the conversation and noted that his tone was what she described as aggressive. Kandi says she then heard Emmett say, "Yeah, we're talking about life. You got a problem with that?" Followed by, "Yeah, I'm going to crack your effing head." She claims that Emmett's tone got more and more threatening and then said, "Just wait right there, we'll be right there," talking about Walgreens since they hadn't arrived back yet to Kandi's empty car. Unfortunately, Kandi was the only witness to have seen what happened in the following moments. Kandi claims that they pulled into the parking lot a little after 10 p.m., parked, and then she got out of the car with Emmett, Rob also getting out of his truck at the same time. She claims that Emmett was leaning against his truck with his arms crossed, and Rob walked over to where they were, though she says that Rob and Emmett were pretty far apart. She then says that the conversation went like this. Rob said, "What's going on?" Emmett says, "She doesn't want to be with you." So Rob says, "So she wants to be with you?" Kandi then says that Emmett made some comments made to insult and to entice Rob into a fight. So Rob then looked at Kandi and said, "But you want to be with him? He has 5 kids, Kandi." Then looked at Emmett and said, "And your poor wife, she just had a baby, and she is at home while you're here with my wife." And apparently this comment was what made Emmett lunge at Rob with both hands on his chest. The impact didn't make Rob fall, which was then when Kandi allegedly stood in between the two of them in an attempt to stop the fight from happening. She says that she told Rob they needed to go home since their daughter had called and knew where they would be and would be asking questions. She claimed that she turned around, headed toward the car, and that is when she heard some scuffles followed by 3 gunshots. Surveillance footage shows enough that the vehicles can be seen leaving and entering the parking lot, but it did not actually catch the shooting itself. So Kandi truly was the only witness and person who saw this. And she was found to be pretty unreliable since she gave conflicting statements and even lied to the police at first by telling them that she and Emmett were not having an affair. Rob tried to say he didn't remember what happened because of retrograde amnesia, but that he remembered getting there and seeing Kandi and Emmett come back. He claimed that his gun fell out of his pocket and Emmett picked it up and shot him. He tried to say he did not shoot Emmett, but later recanted and said that he did it out of self-defense. But actually, Rob was the only one with gun residue on his fingers, which meant he was the only one who had picked up the gun at all. And in his car were emails that proved the affair had been happening, which Kandi, next time if you're going to lie about an affair, make sure that there is no email proof. And then the fact that he showed up with a gun and then shot himself too, it just seemed to solidify their stance that this was not just a self-defense thing as it was being claimed. So Rob was arrested on first-degree murder charges and released shortly after when he posted the $1 million bail. He was given strict instructions not to speak with Kandi since she was an eyewitness in the case. But Rob and Kandi did not listen. They had been working at the same law office and were speaking to each other in the office and over text for at least 4 months. Now, I'm not really sure how they were even allowed to work in the same office to begin with, but that is besides the point. Rob had been using a work phone, and Kandi was using a phone that she paid a coworker to use. So phone records presented in court in late 2011 showed that the two not only exchanged text messages, but calls that at times lasted over an hour in length. Rob's defense team claimed that their boss made sure that they were never working at the same time and that they couldn't prove that it had actually been Rob and Kandi on those phones. The judge ruled that enough evidence was present to show that Rob and Kandi had in fact been talking, and his bond was revoked, sending him straight back to jail. Rob's trial was set for 2012, and while Rob was back in jail awaiting trial, Kandi also got in some hot water legally. In May of 2011, she was arrested and charged with felony grand theft by possession for stealing from the employers that she had worked at before she worked for Emmett. She apparently had embezzled $32,000 from the company. At Robert's trial, his defense team tried to claim that it was self-defense based on one of Kandi's recounted statements that stated that Emmett was the one who was threatening, taunting, and had physically punched Rob first. Rob couldn't testify at his trial, though, due to the concussion and the amnesia that occurred after, making him unable to recall what had happened that night at all. Rob's defense testified that he was pushed to the brink of madness and was so consumed with jealousy over the affair that he had wanted to confront Emmett, but nothing more than verbal confrontation. It was when Emmett became physical that he had been pushed to self-defense. Rob's defense team pulled posts made by Emmett on March 10, 2011, and this post read, "So sad seeing people get manipulated by people who abuse, lie, and cheat." Now, someone had responded to the post by saying, "People like that need a serious ass kicking," to which Emmett responded, "I would kick their ass, but they're too scared to throw down, LOL. Next time I'll film it for ya." The defense team tried to contend that the post was relevant and admissible under Idaho Rule of Evidence 803, and it was to show Emmett's state of mind in order to prove that he was in fact the aggressor. I definitely think that was a bit of a stretch, and that the only thing it showed wasn't just a cheater, but a hypocritical cheater. The judge seemed to think so as well, since it was thrown out and declared to be irrelevant to the case. Kandi testified, and her accounts of what had happened during trial were different from what she had said the night of the shooting. The judge even said that he didn't know if he had ever seen a witness make so many conflicting statements. But the prosecution was saying the opposite of everything Rob's defense was saying. They argued that Rob showed up at Walgreens with a plan to kill Emmett. Ashlee and Emmett's parents also took the stand to explain the devastating effects that the loss of Emmett had on them.
First to testify, Emmett Corrigan's father.
The second you took out that gun, out the holster, you already knew what you were going to do with it, didn't you? You killed my son.
I haven't. I need him to be here. And he should be here.
This is a picture I took. I think it was about a week before Emmett died.
She held a photo of her and Emmett's 5 children as she talked.
The night itself was a traumatic event for each of us, and the 2 years that have followed have brought much pain. I've tried to figure out how, and without hearing I'm sorry, Emmett's chance to say I'm sorry isn't here.
But more importantly, Ashlee described the murder's impact on her children.
I can tell you about my babies pounding on a casket. Their hero's body lying inside, screaming for him to wake up, and screaming at me because I was telling him that we couldn't open the box. I could tell of nights of them screaming in their beds because they had a dream that the bad guy came to their house and shot them in the head.
The jury found that there was not enough evidence to sentence Rob to first-degree murder, and on October 25, 2012, Rob was found guilty of second-degree murder, and he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. He did try to appeal, but it failed. His earliest parole date is 2028. He did apologize at sentencing, though. Although Kandi was never charged with any connection to Emmett's death, Emmett's family has been very open with the fact that they dislike her. A Facebook account seemingly run by Emmett's mother posted a photo of Kandi's mugshot from May 14, 2011, saying, "This is what the face of evil looks like." Kandi Hall's mugshot after being arrested for a felony. Kandi supported Rob throughout his whole trial and said that she loved him and never had any intentions of leaving him.
I have 2 daughters, as you know. She's a full-time college student. The shockwaves beyond that have shattered Emmett's wife, Ashlee, and their children. And I'm so sorry.
After Rob's trial, a resolution came in Kandi's own legal case. She pled guilty and was sentenced to 14 years in prison at the end of 2012. As a part of her sentencing, she would be eligible for parole after 2 years. So she was released from prison in 2014, and she is on probation through 2026. Ashlee and Kandi even took to Dr. Phil to tell their sides of the story. It aired in September of 2021, over 10 years after Emmett's death. And because we all know that Dr. Phil loves all of the drama, he had both Kandi and Ashlee on at the same time. There had been a no contact order between the two of them, and Dr. Phil's team literally asked Ashlee to get that lifted for the sake of the show. Ashlee's interview on the show went a little more into detail about her perspective of the night that Emmett passed away. She says that at 1 a.m. she received a knock on the door and that police told her that Emmett had been shot and killed and that the reason was due to his infidelity. Although she had suspicions, it wasn't until that very moment that she actually had any confirmation of the affair. She says that when she found out that Emmett had died in Kandi's arms, all she could do was cry, and that it hurt her that he had died for Kandi. In Kandi's interview, she says, Ashlee has to understand that this behavior of Emmett's, it started way before me. He ruined the family years ago. I did not ruin that family. Now, she seems to be, at least to me, pretty cocky and unremorseful compared to Ashlee, who is visibly shaken and hurt throughout the entire interview of them being face to face with each other. I cannot imagine the pain that Ashlee had to endure going through the heartbreak of who she thought her husband was, having to mourn his death, and being a single mother of 5 at 28 years old. And the fact that Kandi seemed to be so nonchalant and did not seem to actually be super apologetic for what happened, it just surprises me and kind of blows my mind. It felt more like making excuses and throwing all of the blame on Emmett. However, Ashlee smiled in the face of adversity. She created a blog called The Moments We Stand, which very quickly had over 1 million views just within 1 week of her posting it. She also went on to write multiple books about her experiences and struggles. She has a YouTube channel and an Instagram page where she shares more about her life and her faith that helped her to heal along the way. She refers to herself as a victim advocate and often talks about trauma and mental illnesses.
Life is full of moments. Some we will always remember. Others we will spend a lifetime trying to forget. But it is in these moments we find out who we are and who we were created to be. My name is Ashlee. This is my story. On March 11th, 2011, I was made a widow by 2 shots of a gun. That night, I came head to head with many realities. I had 5 children, the youngest not quite 2 months old, who no longer had a father. I had to continue living in a world that was now full of fear. And I had to face the fact that my husband was killed for sleeping with another man's wife. But most of all, I had to face the reality that I wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for that gun, or that man, or the other woman. But even worse, my husband didn't die fighting for me. He died fighting for her.
Thankfully, Ashlee found love again with a man named Scott and is still with her husband to this day. The couple welcomed 2 more children, so Ashlee is now a mother to 7 in total, which fits perfectly with her longtime goals of being a mother. It's just a devastating case and one that is such a stark reminder of the damage that infidelity and affairs can cause, not only for the people involved and the spouses, but the children and the ripple effect that it really has on everybody. But this case has been one that is highly controversial because many people think that Kandi may have played a larger role in this whole thing than what is being led on, and that her and Rob now are protecting each other and that there's some weird dynamic there. So I am interested to hear what you guys think about this case if you're familiar with it. Thanks for tuning in with me today on another case. I hope you appreciated the case coverage. Please don't forget to give this video a quick thumbs up on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already so that you don't miss any future case updates. All right, guys, thanks again, and until the next one, stay safe. Bye.